Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Top of the morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And joining me this morning is a senior and eminent legal personality and the Secretary General of the People's Intellectual Assembly, PIA, not to be confused with Pakistan International Airlines, of course, and that's Mr. Srinath Pereira. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Farah.
And thank you very much for being on Newsline. We do appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
Seeing that you are a person with legal background and also your Secretary General position with the newly formed People's Intellectual Assembly.
I'm a Joint Secretary.
Joint Secretary.
Yes.
Thank you. With that background, can you say these marches that are going on yesterday, are they strictly legal?
If I'm to answer you, respond to you in one single word, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because it is treated as a democratic right of the people.
Right.
In a democratic system, the citizens have a right to express their views, their dissatisfaction or whatever, in a lawful way, without causing embarrassment or problems to the other people, citizens. So therefore, there are various different ways in which people do express their dissatisfaction or whatever, and therefore this march or whatever, I would say is part of the democratic process. It's legal. Only thing is, the purpose of today I feel that there are groups of people, even earlier there had been groups of people who sometimes abuse this right, sometimes to the detriment of the system. But notwithstanding that, my very definite positive answer would be that's a democratic right and people are entitled to march as long as they don't create any commotions on the way, they don't cause any disturbance to peace or whatever.
Yeah.
Subject to that, that's a right that they are entitled to.
Right. Then we noticed that there are two court orders being given in connection with the march. What's that to do with?
That is, I believe it must be on the basis of the facts that may have been reported to the magistrate's court by the police, that such orders would have been made. And I have not seen the papers, but I guess it must be on the basis that they were anticipating, or they thought that it might result in a breach of the peace.
Right.
And in order to avoid such a situation, that I'm sure the magistrates would have made those orders.
So it was more a matter of good policing.
Absolutely.
Than anything else.
Absolutely.
We then have reports that some of it went a bit awry, and then there was some ambulance that had come under attack and so on.
Absolutely.
So obviously the testosterone levels went up, and there was this thing. So then, how does one deal with that then?
Well, this is the sad part of it. People, when they are given this right to express their whatever views or whatever in this form, a lot of people forget their limits. And they encroach upon the rights of the others. The little bit that I saw on the visuals indicate that there was an ambulance that was going across, and it was sort of obstructed and attacked. I think that's a criminal act.
And they should be dealt with according to the law.
Absolutely. It is the duty of the police to have taken those people into custody and deal with them according to law.
In as much as the people have a right to protest, as you say, but they must do so with bearing in mind that the breach of the peace is paramount.
Peacefully and lawfully. They can't, on the guise of exercising their rights, they cannot violate the rights of the others.
I remember, I'm not that ancient, but I remember that J.R. Jayawardena had his satyagrahas
Absolutely.
And they were taking on a prime minister at the time who I think was elected with a resounding majority.
Absolutely.
And so would have been in full control of the forces, the police, and all the other agencies.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, they took them on, but peacefully.
Absolutely.
And of course, history shows that Mr. Jawad was elected to power thereafter in 77.
Absolutely.
But how essential are these protest marches and so on?
Well, as I stated, it's a hallmark of a democratic system, because people should have the right to express or to express their views in a lawful manner.
Right.
So therefore, I would say in a democratic process, this is something that we should learn to live with. And also, if it's being properly exercised by those who protest, that can be to the benefit of the society, in the sense, if the government does something which may be antisocial, right? By expressing their opposition to that, you are making the people who are governing open their eyes and realize the problems or the incorrectness or whatever decisions that they have made, so that they can correct themselves. So therefore, if used in the proper context, I feel it can be a very useful component for good governance. Of course, as I said, Faraz, the most unfortunate thing is these opportunities that are being given are being misused.
Right.
And misused to an extent of making it an illegal, unlawful process at the end of the day. As I said, where on the guise of exercising your rights, you violate the rights of all the others.
Right.
So I think that's something that will have to be found fault with and discouraged.
One would also then point out that whilst that is so, that there are some elements who can't handle this freedom and this leeway that's been wide-angle view that the government, the law actually takes, or the constitution takes.
Absolutely.
That's in the same way that the elected representatives in parliament and in provincial councils and so on, that they too, there are elements there who also can't handle the responsibility and the accountability that is bestowed upon them when they seek office, and when they're not forced to seek office, they come out there and they want our vote, and these elements, in essence, have hoodwinked the people, because apart from pretending to represent the people, they are involved in all sorts of, for want of a better word, dodgy activities.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's any way in which I can challenge one word of what you have stated. I'm in 100% agreement with the sentiments that you have expressed, and I might go one step further and say it's very unfortunate that in this country we have the people are said to be 98% literate. But still, I don't know whether I'm correct, but that is my view. I think majority of them are gullible.
Yes.
Gullible.
There's a difference between being literate and being informed.
There is a difference, yes. There's a difference, and especially when it comes to politics, it's very easy to cheat these people. They get carried away by words, they get carried away by the way some people conduct themselves, and year in, year out, this has been happening. People, as I stated, it's very easy to cheat the people, it's very easy to cheat the voter. They are not educated enough, or they are not mature enough, even though we have experienced 70 years approximately of freedom. I don't think our nation and the majority of the people are still mature enough to understand the niceties in relation to electing representatives of the people, and that I think is the bane of this country. I can tell you, if you permit me, in my view, more than half the people who are there, seated there in the legislature are not fit to be there. You may find fault with me.
No.
Maybe the listeners will find fault with me, but that's my candid view.
I was down south yesterday, or the day before, and I was speaking to a group of people, and we discussed, like everything else, Sri Lankans seem to have a preoccupation with politics. And they said, well, I said, but you know, the people are electing these people all over again. And they said, you know, at the end of the day, it's the last speech that counts.
Absolutely.
I asked him, what do you mean? He said, well, it's the last speech. Before we go to elections, it's the last speech. That's the one that counts.
Absolutely.
So in that last speech, if you promise them rice from the moon, they may actually be gullible enough to believe that too.
Absolutely.
But that's one of the problems that we're facing here.
Absolutely.
On that note, we shall take a short break and come right back. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline, and this morning we're with Mr. Srinath Pereira.
Shaukut.
Welcome back. This is Newsline, only on TV1, that channel that's really worth watching in the morning. And we're joined this morning by Mr. Srinath Pereira, the Joint Secretary of the People's Intellectual Assembly. Addition to your voice, asking the questions and raising the issues that you want answered and raised. Mr. Pereira, again, thank you very much for being with us and taking your time, actually.
Thank you.
What do you think? This government, it's about 18 months, in a way.
Well,
What's happening?
There are positives as well as negatives. If you give me a little time, Faraz, can I start with the positives?
Absolutely. I was going to invite you to tell me about the positives.
Compared to the last regime, up to date, I don't know how it's going to be tomorrow, but up to date, we have not had this curse of white vans.
That's right.
That is out. We have not had that problem since this government took over. Secondly, I believe up to date, people have had the freedom to express their views the way they want, without any fear or favor. I myself, being a UN peer, have been very critical in relation to some of the actions that they have taken. And I must say that I have done it without any fear or favor, and I have not been dealt with I have not been dealt with. I think that's a positive thing for what I have said in public. Third is, there was the amendment of the Constitution, the 19th Amendment. Even though it does not measure up to what we expected, very definitely there is a remarkable improvement that has been brought about as a result of the 19th Amendment being pushed through Parliament. Then also, judging from the way they conduct the affairs, I believe we are winning back the international community, which in whatever way they could, at least in a limited way, probably will help us. So those are very positive changes that have been brought about by this government, and I think as citizens we should be extremely grateful and thankful for having brought about these changes. But those are the positives. And now you will permit me to come back to the negatives.
Yes.
As far as corruption is concerned, as far as nepotism is concerned, I think, I'm sad to say this, it's with reluctance I say this, and not with a view to embarrassing the present government that I do say this. I say it with a view to expecting them to change their course. I think as far as corruption and nepotism is concerned, this government is as bad or worse than the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime. I say it for this reason. We are comparing maybe 10 months of rule by this government with 11 years by Mahinda Rajapaksa. And there again we cannot forget the fact...
9 years.
9 years. And there again we cannot forget the fact that greater part of the 9 years they were fighting a war.
Correct.
So therefore, when you are at war, naturally there will be a series of people who will try to sort of defraud the state and the
more opportunity
assets of the people.
Yeah.
So in that context, I would very boldly say that in my view, this government is as corrupt or even worse, taking into consideration the time periods that we are comparing. Now, I don't expect as a citizen of this country that any government will be able to totally eradicate corruption from the system. If you make me the president tomorrow, I don't think it will be possible for me to do that either. But all what we are asking for from this government is, we must feel confident that the government is committed to control corruption. That commitment, I'm sad to say, it's with reluctance I say, I have not seen up to date.
Yes.
It's a sad state of affairs, because if this is what we are going to have, if changes of governments change, but corruption and nepotism continues, whatever advantages that we may gain by improving production, improving the economy, will not be able to be enjoyed by the people if part of that is sucked out by the political authority by way of corruption and nepotism.
Why in Sri Lanka? Why is this sort of fascination with wanting to put your people in key positions where, say, you may be a minister, or you may be, the chairman of some authority, and that chairman or that CEO of some government place will try to put his people in. And Mahinda Rajapaksa said the same, and so does. They will now say, if we ask them, we haven't, but if we do, they'll say the same. Or, well, no, we have, the media have asked some ministers why a brother was appointed as chairman or whatever. Now, why can't we have professionals? Why can't we just have sort of non-executive chairmen who are merely there as a figurehead? So you can have your political appointees as a result of not having legal mechanism for electoral funding. So I suppose you need your supporters to be given little positions. But if they didn't actually run the place, that might be all right, and you could let the professionals below them to actually run it. So why can't we have that culture?
We could, and that is what we should try to drive the whole system towards, as you suggested, to have independent, honorable people in charge of key institutions. But I can tell you, judging from what has been happening during the last 20 or 30 years, that has not been the case, and it is not the case even today. And can I also say this for us? I'm sure you will not join issue or you will not challenge me when I say this. Appointing professionals by itself is not an answer.
Oh. Because
today I think we have professionals in key positions who are even worse than the ordinary people.
Yes.
And at times, sometimes the very intelligent people, the professionals, once they are put in key positions, they would know how to handle and how to make money without anybody in a much better way. So that being the case, no doubt, I think professionals comparatively are better than the others. But it's not only a question of selecting the professionals, you have to select the right professional, and also one has to be satisfied that that's a man with some integrity. What is the idea in having a dishonest man, professional, as a head of institution?
Yeah.
He will ruin the institution faster than it will be done by anybody else. So therefore, answer is not purely having professionals there, but have honorable, honest professionals. We have hundreds and hundreds of them available in this country. There are people who are committed, who are willing to do who make such a whatever contribution that is asked for. But very unfortunately, those who are in governance have their own friends, relations, small groups from which they draw, whilst the men with integrity, the men with capacity, the men with ability, professionals maybe, non-professionals maybe, are just hanging up and looking up at the sky and gazing. This system has to change, and this system will never change as long as our voters are unable to identify the honourable men and send them to parliament. So I think the fault is not with the elected representative, in my view. The fault lies with the voter. That's how I see it. But at the end of the term, at the end of 5 years or 6 years maybe, it is the voter who would put those people into positions. And you hand over the key to them to run the country the way they want. And naturally, when you put the politicians who are corrupt into key positions, there's nothing better that you can expect. And the most unfortunate thing is not only our generation that will suffer, but generations to come. It's absolutely a sad state of affairs, and I think it's time that at least the younger generation looked at it in a more realistic way and joined together in order to change this culture in this country. If you don't, I think we will gradually sink until we are destroyed.
Looking at the political makeup of the country now, where we have this national sort of consensus government, so-called, but we have another group of members who claim to be the opposition per se.
Joint opposition.
Joint opposition. Now, what are the dangers of letting a third force come up as well? So that, don't you think that this will polarize the local political landscape, and then actually might be to the detriment of a robust democracy here?
No. Faraz, with due respect, I do disagree on that. In my view, one of the ways in which we can get out of this culture is by a third group of good individuals, human beings, joining together and creating a force which could become a challenge to the two main parties in this country. The most unfortunate thing in this country is that there are two groups, two parties, which are called the main parties, who alternate. And both parties know that when you get into power, you will hold power for a period of time, and then you go out of power. And the other group knows that maybe after 7-8 years, they will be back in the saddle, and they will be able to continue with what they do. And also I find that without any fear, the people who are in governance rob the country, because they know that once they go out of power, they are not taken to task in the way it should be. And as a result, they know that they can escape, they can get away with it. So if a third force emerges, not the type of third forces that have emerged in this country, which have become part and parcel of the governing party, but a real, genuine third force which is concerned about the people, about the country, then that will put fear into these two groups. And they will realize, if they feel that there is a third group of
so do we have such a group?
Just for the time being, I don't think there is one. I don't think. My prayer is that
one will emerge.
One will emerge. Because if that will put the necessary fear into the minds of those two groups which are in power or who alternate, so that once they realize that there is a third force emerging, probably they will correct themselves and try to sort of, get on to the correct path. That's the only hope that I have as far as this country is concerned. But as you quite correctly said, when that group will emerge, when that group will be permitted to advance, I do not know.
In the meantime, the people can live in hope?
What else?
What else do we have?
What else? Yes.
It's not everybody who can who has the green card and who can just jet off to wherever.
Absolutely. And I can't understand why some of these politicians amass so much of wealth. Because there is a certain amount of money that you would probably require to
live luxuriously.
Beyond that, what? As if though they are going to continue to live permanently on this on earth. That's a fact that most people don't seem to realize.
And it's a fact that almost certainly missed the Rajapaksas, who appeared to think that they were invincible.
Absolutely. You will permit me to say just one thing for us.
Please.
That is, as I see it, today I am critical of this government. Being a UN peer, I am critical. I am being critical not to bring down this government, not to cause embarrassment to them. It's in good faith that we are doing this. Actually, we also formed this People's Intellectual Assembly with a view to, not with a view to causing embarrassment to anybody, but to see whether we can push these people to get on to the correct track. If Mahinda Rajapaksa had 6 or 7 such people at the time he was at the helm of affairs, I'm 100% sure, and if he did listen to them, I'm 100% sure even today it would have been Mahinda Rajapaksa who was the president. His downfall was that 2 things. One, none of his people who were surrounding him were willing to oppose him, and I believe the reason may have been they felt that opposing him will only ensure they are losing privileges and there will be no gains.
And that there may will be a right van.
Absolutely.
But bravo, well said about the bit about we're doing this, we're holding this government in power now, accountable not because we want to get them to leave office, but because we want them to change the way they're operating.
Absolutely.
Bravo, well said. Thank you very much, Mr. Srinath Pereira, especially for being on Newsline. We hope to welcome you on our network one more time, anytime. Thank you.
Faraz, I must thank you and the institution for having given me this opportunity to express my views without any fear or favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Newsline. It's been great having you. Do take care and have an excellent weekend. See you again Monday through to Friday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place, only on TV1. Take care, have a great day and a weekend. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.